We're taking a closer look at a Janome cover stitch machine, the 1000 CPX. Welcome to the Sewing Report. I'm Jennifer Moore, helping you discover your love of sewing. And we unboxed this baby live on the air a couple weeks ago. And now we're going to go into a more in-depth look at this machine, what it can do. Also, I'm going to do some demonstrations, and we're going to talk about what it comes with and sort of what kind of capabilities this cover stitch machine has. And it's a lot. I was fairly impressed. So let's get started, and I would like to say thank you to my friends at Pink Castle Fabrics. They are the ones who provided this model here for us to test out so we can make some videos with it. And at the end of this video, stay tuned because we've got a special limited time offer from Pink Castle Fabrics if you are interested in getting yourself a cover stitch machine. So this is the Janome 1000 CPX. Janome has several different cover stitch machines. They've got the 900, they've got the 2000, and this machine is a 4-thread, 3-needle setup, so you can have as many as 4 spools of thread, you can have as many as 3 needles for a triple stitch. And a lot of people in the live video were asking, what is the difference between a serger and a cover stitch machine? And the difference is really that a serger more does seam allowances. So when you sew an edge, say I'm sewing this edge right here, you know, you sew a seam and then this is your seam allowance here, and then a serger pretty much finishes those raw edges and there's a knife on it. You can do different things with the serger, but that's pretty much the main function of it. A cover stitch machine does not have a knife, and it's more for hemming, decorative top stitching. It does really nice double and triple rows of stitching. So say you have a pair of jeans and you want to have a nice double decorative stitching or something like that, that's what you would use a cover stitch machine for. So on a cover stitch machine, say this is your hem, you fold it over to one side, you top stitch it on one side and you see a real neat row of stitches. On the underside, you will see a network of threading that looks like the serger. So that is the similarity, is both machines create this network of threads, and it's great for especially stretchy fabrics like knits because you can stretch out those stitches and they won't break on you. So that's really the best things about both sergers and cover stitch machines. There are models that do both. You can convert it from a serger to a cover stitch machine, but I'm going to be honest with you, that's way too much work for me. I like unitaskers in the sewing room, stuff where you don't have to change a bunch of settings on to get it to do what you want. So this machine, it does retail. It's retailing right now. It's a special price. It's $5.99 at pinkcastlefabrics.com. And I think that's actually a great value. I will say this, I own a Brother serger and now I've been using this Janome cover stitch machine. I've had Brother sewing machines in the past. I have a Janome domestic. And I will say this, I'm noticing a difference between my Brother serger and the Janome cover stitch machine. The Janome actually, I don't know, somehow the machine feels more substantial, and when I'm stitching on it, the movement feels a lot more smooth and fluid. The Brother can be a little bit jumpy, so when I'm serging on it, like, it kind of vibrates. But with the Janome, it really doesn't do that. The machine is very solidly built, and it's a lot bigger than it looks in photos online. I actually expected this machine to be significantly smaller, so I was surprised. Right out of the box, these are the spools of thread that came with the machine, and it's ready to go. Like, it's threaded, there's needles in it. All you have to do is plug it in and you start cover stitching right away. And I will say there's a few knobs, so your tension dials are up here. And I finally figured out what this diagram is. So there's a little lever here, and if you put it to the right, I guess this is for knit fabrics. If you put it to the left, that is for woven fabrics. So you can switch back and forth, and it does seem like the knit setting has a slightly looser network of threads for you to be able to stretch it out. There's also knobs on the side, so there's a hand wheel like any sewing machine. There's also a knob where you can change the stitch length, and there's another knob where you can change the differential feed. So that is very similar to a serger in that regard. It does come with this standard foot here, and the one I was looking at a lot of reviews online for this model, And the one thing people were saying is to spend the money on the clear/transparent foot or on the center guide foot, because it'll be nice for you to be able to see where your stitching is going, especially if you're doing top stitching or hemming where it's going to be visible. So people were saying that the clear foot was a good one to have. I think it's about $50, and the center guide foot is also about $50 online. And the center guide foot is basically like the clear transparent foot, except it's got a center guide that you can remove. So it can act as a center guide foot, but if you can also remove that part and it'll just be a regular clear foot. This machine does have a free arm so that you can do things like pant legs or sleeves. There we go. So it comes out and then you can feed your fabric in the round like that. And it's got a pretty large work surface, so I was impressed by that. It came with some needles, and it also came with this really cool accessory box. So it came with, of course, the almighty tweezers, some extra needles, some little screwdrivers for various parts, and also it comes with some spool nets, so in case you're working with metallic threads or slippery threads, this will help the threads feed out at a more normal pace. And this is kind of interesting. Oh wait, not this. It actually came with a little needle threader, and I've actually never seen one like this before. And I'll demonstrate this a little bit later, but I thought this was kind of a neat little thing to have. Okay, so I'm going to do a little demonstration. Now, I've got this canvas here, and I'm going to put this to woven settings, and let me try. So it says the settings for this should be like 533. So it comes standard as 4443, and that's if you're sewing with woven fabrics. And this little color-coded guide on here is really helpful. I've actually been using it quite a bit. So this says to do 533. So let's give that a whirl and see what happens here. All right, so we're going to try just putting this canvas in here. All right, so I'm going to put my presser foot down. And again, one lesson I did teach in my little serger tips video was to always make sure your presser foot is down. Otherwise, it's going to look really jacked up. All right, and then we're just going to give this a whirl. It does sew really fast. It feels almost like an industrial machine. So go slowly. All right, the tension does seem a little high, but we'll see what happens. We'll get to the end of the row here. And then when you get to the end, so what you want to do is you always want to turn your hand wheel towards you. All right, do the last stitch by hand and then put your needles in the most upright position that can be. All right, lift your presser foot up like this. Lift the presser foot up at the front here and then use your tweezers to grab these threads here. Grab your needle threads. Then you're going to snip them. And then start gently tugging your fabric. Tug your fabric to the back. And it may take a little bit, but what that's doing is actually pulling, all the threads to the back, and it's also locking the stitches. So that's how you release the tension on your machine, which I think is very easy. I've heard hit or miss things with that on other machines. On the front here, you get a really nice row of stitching, and then on the back, you get that network of stitching. Let's see how it does again on 443. Because that's what it was on when I initially got the machine, and that actually worked pretty well for the woven fabric. So let's try that. We'll just do another row. And the thing with the cover stitch machine, it's about trial and error. It's about testing out scraps and seeing what settings work for you. And I would actually recommend, I think I'm going to do this, I'm going to keep a notebook with the settings I have and what fabrics I use so that moving forward, I remember what I did for certain fabrics so that I'm not guessing over and over again. So I think that's definitely something you can do if you're getting a cover stitch machine and you want to be able to know what settings you used. So sort of like a journal. Let's see here. All right, so here we are again. Let's lift this up. Pull our oh yeah, forgot to lift the presser foot up. Very important. And pull this out. Clip, and then tug to the back. Now let's see how that did differently. The tension on this did seem a little better. On the back, it looks about the same. I'm actually going to try switching this back to the woven. Actually, the weird thing is I use the knit settings on wovens, and that actually seemed to work better. And yeah, you will have a lot of like random threads, so make sure to keep your trash can handy here. Now let's try another row here. We're just going to try doing it. All right, we've got it on 443, and actually I kind of like using it on the knit settings for even woven fabrics. It seems to work out a little bit better somehow. So we're just going to try that and start stitching again. See how easy this machine is to use? It's really not difficult, and I will say I found this a lot less frustrating to use than a serger. I think there's less of a learning curve, personally. Here we go. Okay, let me get my tweezers. Pull these out. And tug to the back. And actually that worked out pretty well, I think. Okay, yeah, I think that worked out better, I think. We've got this nice stitching on the front, and then we've got this little network of stitches on the back. So we're going to do knits next, and not just any knits. We're going to test out jersey knit fabric. So here's our jersey fabric, and I'm going to change the settings quite a bit. So with the jersey fabric, I figured out I need to change the differential feed to be as stretchy as I can make it. So you want your jersey to stretch out and not gather at all. I've got my stitch length on about 3, and we're just going to do a little test, so it really doesn't matter. We're just trying to run things through here and test things out. I've still got my 2 needles, and after I do this, I'm going to show you the chain stitch, which I think is actually going to be something that I use quite frequently. All right, so we're going to lower our tension to 1, 1, and 0. And the reason I want my looper thread to have so little tension is because I want that network of threads in the back to be looser, since this is jersey knit fabric. So we're just going to try this out, and I noticed it makes a better stitch if you kind of hold the fabric a little bit taut. So hold it as you're stitching it, and it will gather a little bit, so that's why you're kind of holding it. I do think it would make a difference having woolly nylon thread in your looper, and I've actually got some ordered, so hopefully we'll be able to try that out too soon. Okay. And we're just testing this out, so. All right. You see how the fabric is gathering? That's why you really want your differential feed to help stretch out the fabric so that it doesn't get all puckered up. All right, let's take these threads out. And I really like this tip. I think I saw it somewhere in another video where they were doing this, and it's worked like a charm. All right, pull the thread to the back. This is super easy. So now you see we've got some very nice top stitching on here, and then on the back you've got your threads here. And this worked out pretty well, and if you get this little tunneling, if you get a little bit of tunneling here, you can actually just press it and it'll kind of press it out. So I don't think this did too bad of a job. So, and it is a little bit stretchy, although, yeah, I think I did sew it on the side that is stretchy. But this turned out pretty nice. And again, I do want to try this with some stretchy thread because I think that would help a lot. I've read a lot of reviewers saying that same thing. And I will say this though, there were some reviewers that were complaining that they had skipped stitches when working with jersey or slinky fabrics. I personally have not found that at all, and I'm not even using ballpoint needles. Oh, and this machine does take a specific needle. It's like the EL by 705, so ELX705, and I'll put some links in the description box so that you can pick up some replacement needles if you're in need, but you just have to make sure that the needles you buy are that type. So let's say I wanted to add my third needle, which I've got right here. It's actually pretty easy. So all you do, I'm going to put my presser foot down, turn my machine off here. All right, and you just need your little screwdriver here. And I'm just gonna put my needle here. And then there's a little hole you just have to have. Here we go. So push it up as far as it can go, and then use your little screwdriver to hold it in place here. It might be a little hard to see. Here we go. Here we go. All right. So I told you I had these little threads hanging out here. So this is my middle thread here. All right, so I'm just gonna release the tension. So really all I need to do is bring it up through these guides here. And again, this is much like a regular sewing machine. So this is the part where it's going to be like what you're used to. There we go. This is like any other sewing machine. Bring it through the guide here, and then through these guides here. And then we're going to demonstrate how to use that little needle threader that came with the machine. All right, so it's actually pretty easy. This thing, I thought it was kind of weird when I saw it, but what you're going to do is you're going to put your thread in the middle of this, like here, and then, so put your thread in here, like this, and then you're going to push this into the needle here. There we go. And this actually will push the thread through the needle, which is kind of crazy, but it actually did work. It went through the little eye, and there's actually a hook at the back. I don't know if you can see this, but hopefully yes. You can just hook this, and then it will actually pull it all the way through. So that's all you have to do. And then if you want to, you can kind of push it down through the foot so that it joins the other threads here. And yeah, you notice I didn't have to re-thread it. I didn't have to like take a bunch of stuff out. And then we're just going to let it run for a little bit. Let's see here. Now let's try to go. So you see it runs, and I didn't have to fiddle with it too much. I just had to re-thread just that one needle that I actually needed. All right, so let me pull these out again. So now I've got 3 threads in here. And all I have to do is cut all these. So I've got 3 threads for triple stitching. And all I had to do was add the needle and then re-thread it. I didn't have to run everything through all the guides. I just had to like re-thread that one needle. I didn't have to re-thread everything, which unlike a serger, which you know, if you're working with a serger, you have to re-thread everything. It'll get very wonky if you try to take shortcuts with the serger. All right, so now I've got my little triple stitching here. Now say I wanted to convert it to a 1 needle operation, and this is actually a stitch that I think I'm going to be using a lot, which is just a regular chain stitch. So I'm actually going to take 2 needles out. I'm going to take I'm going to take out the right needle. I'm just going to get my little screwdriver and take it out. So I'm going to take out the right needle here. All right, here we go. And then I'm going to take out the left one. So I'm just going to leave the center needle here. And see how easy it is to convert the machine? Like, it's really not that hard. You just have to take out the needles and then hide those threads. So I've still got the one, I still have 1 thread. All right. And all I'm going to do with these is I'm going to clip the threads here so that they don't get in the way. So that's all I'm really going to do is clip these, and then they won't be in the way. Now that we have just the 1 needle, we're going to demonstrate the chain stitch, which is just like your regular straight stitch, except it's got some threads on the back, the network of threads on the back, so that it's a more reinforced seam, which I can see using for quite a few things, like if I'm making jeans or another garment that's going to get a lot of wear and tear. instead of using your domestic, you can use the cover stitch machine and give it a much stronger seam. All right, so let's try this out. And I am going to change the tensions. Now remember to change your tension back after you've been working with like knits versus wovens. You want to make sure that you've got this all right. Here we go. Actually, I want to loosen the tension just a little bit here. Let me try it on 2. Let's see how that works. We'll see. Just to see what happens. All right. One more revolution here. All right, let's take up the presser foot. Cut the threads here. And then pull this to the back. And now you have a straight stitch on the front, and then you've got a really durable seam on the back. So this is going to be great, and I can actually see using the chain stitch for quite a few different things. You can use it pretty much like a regular sewing machine because it's just a more reinforced, tougher stitch. But on the back, you can see it looks really nice. And actually that tension seemed to work out. I changed the tension to like 2.5, and that seemed to work out pretty well. So those are just a few things that you can do with the cover stitch machine. Hopefully you found this video helpful, but I've been learning a lot as I've been using it. So far, I think it's amazing. I'm really glad because I was kind of on the fence about whether I needed one or whether I would use it a lot, but I can really envision myself using this machine literally all the time. And I've had a lot of fun playing with it. I love how easy it is to use, and it came with everything I needed, and this little accessory box is so cute. And the machine works really well. So I think if you're thinking about getting a cover stitch machine, definitely look into the Janome 1000CPX. I think it's a really great value. And again, thank you to Pink Castle Fabrics for making this video possible. And for Sewing Report fans out there, if you are interested, definitely check out Pink Castle Fabrics. They're offering a special deal to Sewing Report viewers. If you tell them I sent you, like when you're making your order, just put in the notes like, you know, found you through Sewing Report or Sewing Report sent me. If you buy any sewing machine over $500, Pink Castle Fabrics will give you $50 to spend in accessories as a bonus. So say you do get this cover stitch machine, you could get one of those clear feet or the center guide foot as your extra, and that's $50. So you can get the cover stitch machine and basically get that foot for free, which I do think would be really helpful. And hopefully I'll be adding that to the arsenal so I can show that to you. Now this deal is only available until August 1st, 2017. So act fast if you are interested in the Janome CoverPro. I think it's a great machine. So if you're kind of hesitant about purchasing something online, maybe you've never done it before, especially not for a sewing machine, I would encourage you to not be intimidated or afraid, because Pink Castle Fabrics is very dedicated to offering you a great customer experience, and they want you to be happy. To Pink Castle Fabrics, your relationship doesn't end with the sale, that's where it begins. And they're a local quilt shop based in Michigan, Ann Arbor, so if you're there, feel free to stop by. And they just happen to sell online. So if you're interested in supporting a brick and mortar business, well, this is it. In fact, a lot of these places that sell online, even though they kind of may seem a little abstract, there are real people behind those businesses, and many of them are local quilt shops like Pink Castle Fabrics. So I want to thank them because, again, without Pink Castle Fabrics, this series of videos that I'm doing would not be possible, and they really gave me the opportunity to try out this machine in a way that was doable for me. So really appreciate you joining me for this video. There will definitely be more, and there's a link to Pink Castle Fabrics in the description box. Please, please, please check out the website. They also sell fabrics, sewing notions, patterns. Oh, and Pink Castle Fabrics has a couple times a year, they have something called Camp Stitch A Lot or Glamp Stitch A Lot. It's a really fun sewing and quilting retreat where one of them, the Camp Stitch A Lot, it's like more in a cabin, you know, kind of a rustic setting. So it gives you that summer camp experience maybe you missed out on or you'd like to relive. And Glamp Stitch A Lot is pretty much what it sounds like. It's at a hotel, a little more posh, and you get some great sewing instructors and some good camaraderie with some other people who are also interested in sewing. So definitely check that out, and I will see you next time for another edition of the Sewing Report.